The day my world went dark was the day my true sight began. I still remember the hiss of iron, the searing pain as Master Thornton pressed the white-hot poker into my eyes. My crime, seeing too much? I had witnessed him slit the throat of Isaiah, a man who tried to shield his daughter from the Master's hands. Blind him, Thornton snarled. No witnesses. I was 17. They left me in the tool shed, bleeding and broken, meant to die like a dog. But as my vision bled away, the world began to speak. I heard the cockroaches scratching across wood, the rain's many voices, tin roof, muddy ground, cypress leaves. The swamp was no longer a place of fear. It was a living map, whispering to me in echoes and rhythms no sighted man could follow. That night I swore, if they had taken my eyes, I would take their power. By sound alone, I would lead others through the swamps to freedom, and maybe one day to vengeance. If these buried stories move you, subscribe now and comment your state below. Let us know where you're watching from. Because tonight, you'll hear a history most were never meant to know. Tell me, when the world takes your sight but leaves you the swamp, would you choose to hide? Or to fight? I was born into bondage on the Thornton plantation, deep in the South Carolina low country. My first memories are not of faces but of sounds. The crack of the overseer's whip, the muffled sobs of women in the night, the restless moan of the swamp winds. Even before blindness, I heard more than I saw. My mother tried to shield me from the worst of it. She would hum soft spirituals while we picked cotton, her voice trembling but steady. Keep your head low, Gabriel, she whispered. Low eyes live longer. But even as a child, I couldn't keep my curiosity chained. My ears roamed where my eyes could not. I listened to the plantation house creak at night, to the overseers muttering after too much rum, to the swamp's strange symphony, frogs, crickets, owls, water shifting against unseen roots. The swamp was both promise and threat. To the masters, it was a prison wall. Run and the swamp will eat you alive before the dogs do, they warned. But I sensed something different. Beneath its danger was a rhythm, a pulse. Even then, I believed it could hide us, shelter us, maybe even free us. When I was 12, my mother coughed her lungs out in a fevered winter. They buried her in unmarked ground. No prayer, no marker but the hollow silence where her voice had been. I was left alone, a skinny boy with too many questions and no one left to answer them. Master Thornton ruled with cruelty dressed as pride. His overseer Jenkins, long arms, hard eyes, enjoyed his work too much. Whippings were not just punishment. They were theater, staged to remind us who owned flesh, who owned breath. I learned early that every scream on the air was a warning. This could be you. But I also learned something else, that every sound told a story. By footsteps, I knew who approached. By breathing, I knew fear from fury. By silence, I knew death. These lessons stayed with me long after my eyes were gone. In those years, the name Gabriel meant nothing, just another boy in rags, picking until his fingers bled. But even then, I could feel the world pressing in, whispering that I was meant for more, that somehow the swamp and I belonged to each other. I didn't know it yet, but every sound I memorized, every echo I traced in the dark corners of the plantation yard, was training. The kind of training no whip could beat out, no master could imagine. The whites feared the swamp. We, those in chains, learned to fear them. But I was caught between both fears, listening, learning, waiting. And then came the day when silence fell hardest of all. The day I saw something I was never meant to see. That day would cost me my eyes and give me my destiny. 31 South Carolina. One boy, one act of defiance. The story begins in blood. Would you have dared to look knowing the price of seeing? The day I lost my sight began like any other. Sun heavy on our backs. Overseer's shadow long across the fields. Isaiah, a strong man with shoulders like stone, worked near me. He had a daughter, no more than 14, who carried water for us. That morning I saw Thornton's gaze fix on her longer than it should have. By nightfall, the air was thick with menace. I slipped near the big house drawn by voices. That's when I saw it. Thornton's hand on the girl, Isaiah stepping between them. Words turned sharp, then steel flashed. In a single motion, Thornton slit Isaiah's throat. His body fell in silence, his blood soaking the dirt. My gasp gave me away. Thornton's head snapped toward me. Boy, his voice cut like a whip. Two men seized me, dragged me before him. I shook, but I couldn't unsee Isaiah's death. Thornton's face twisted with rage. "No witnesses," he said. "They dragged me to the forge." I fought, screamed, begged. The poker glowed white, brighter than the sun itself. Thornton pressed it to my eyes. A soundless scream tore from my throat as fire seared through me. Sight melted into darkness forever. When they were done, they threw me into the tool shed, alone, blinded, waiting for death. The smell of charred flesh clung to me. Flies gathered. For 3 days, I drifted in and out, praying for an end. But something strange began to happen. The darkness was not empty. It was alive. I could hear the floor breathe with cockroaches. Every step of every rat. Rain on tin sounded different from rain on mud, different again from rain on leaves. Every droplet a map. On the 4th day, Martha found me. Old Martha, the cook, the only kindness left on that cursed land. "Lord have mercy," she whispered, washing my wounds with trembling hands. "They thought you dead. Master gone to Charleston. If he comes back, he'll finish you." Her words should have ended me. Instead, I felt something stir. Even blind, I was not finished. The world had not taken everything. It had given me something else. I could hear the swamp. Its millions of voices no longer background but guide. Owls calling, insects buzzing, frogs croaking. They painted pictures clearer than sight. In the dark, I understood what the sighted could not. The swamp was alive, and it was speaking to me. For the first time, I did not fear the silence. I feared what I might do with it. In the low country, blindness became a weapon sharper than any blade. If freedom cost your eyes, would you still reach for it? Martha nursed me in secret for weeks. She smuggled bread crusts, bitter herbs for the pain, and water from the well, while the rest of the plantation believed I was a ghost already buried. I listened. My ears learned the weight of every footstep, the shape of every door creak, the timbre of every voice, and in those whispers, rebellion began to take root. One evening, Martha's hands shook as she pressed a cup to my lips. "You got family at the Colton plantation," she reminded me. "Your Aunt Ruthie. 5 miles through the cypress swamp." I almost laughed. "Follow the North Star." "Martha, I can't see stars anymore." Her hand squeezed mine. "Someone will guide you. Elijah, maybe. His brother was sold south last month. And the twins, Isaac and Jacob. Strong boys, but reckless. They all whisper of running. But the swamp..." She trailed off, fear choking her. "They say the swamp will eat a man alive," I finished. Silence stretched between us. Then I spoke the words that shocked even me. "I can lead them." Martha's breath caught. "Boy, you can't see your own hand." "I don't need to," I said. "I can hear the swamp. I've been listening my whole life. I know its paths. Can read its voices. For days," she argued, pleaded, called it fever talk. But the more I listened to the cypress winds and the trickle of unseen waters, the more certain I became. My blindness was not a curse, it was a key. Soon Elijah came to me in the night. His voice was heavy with grief. "They sold my brother, Gabriel. Sent him to Georgia. I can't stay. I'll run with or without you." I told him my plan. At first, he called me mad. But when he heard the confidence in my voice, how I described footsteps, the echo of distance, the turn of a path by sound alone, his silence told me all I needed. He would follow. Isaac and Jacob joined soon after. Twin shadows of each other, fierce and desperate. "We'll come," Isaac said. "But Jacob fears the swamp." "I don't fear it," Jacob corrected, though his tone betrayed him. I leaned forward, my ruined eyes staring into nothing. "Fear it, respect it. But trust me, the swamp is not our enemy. It is our ally. The decision was made. We would leave at the dark of the new moon. Food stolen, tools hidden near the edge. And me, the blind boy marked for death, would lead them all. That night, alone in my lean-to, I whispered to the darkness, "Take my eyes. I'll use my ears. Take my fear. I'll use my rage. Take everything except my will." And the swamp, alive and endless, whispered back. One blind man. 3 field hands. A swamp full of ghosts. Would you have trusted him? If you were chained, would you put your life in the hands of a blind guide? The night came heavy with rain. Clouds smothered the moon, and the air itself felt thick, swollen with silence. Perfect cover. I sat in my lean-to, heart pounding to the rhythm of the storm. 3 soft owl hoots broke the night. Our signal. Elijah. I rose, bare feet finding the path as if I had walked it 1,000 times. At the edge of the swamp, the twins waited. Isaac's breath was quick, nervous. Jacob tried to stand tall, but I could hear his knees quivering. Elijah's voice was steady. "We're ready." I lifted my head, listening to the world. Rain tapping cypress leaves. Frogs croaking from deeper pools. Water flowing north to south, just as I remembered. "Stay close," I whispered. "Step where I step. No sound unless I speak." We entered the swamp. To them, it was a nightmare. Black water, unseen roots, the hiss of hidden snakes. To me, it was a map etched in sound. Every click of my tongue painted a picture. Echoes off tree trunks told me where solid ground ended. The low gurgle of a stream told me where water flowed safe. The sudden slither of scales warned me of moccasins. Twice I stopped us just in time. Elijah muttered thanks under his breath, awe creeping into his tone. But Isaac's mind was elsewhere. "We have to get Jacob," he whispered. "The traders take him at dawn." I froze. "Jacob is here with us." Isaac shook his head. "Not my brother, my twin. They sold him this morning. He's chained with 10 others at the crossroads camp." My gut clenched. The swamp had brought us this far, but a trader camp? 3 armed men, rifles, pistols, dogs. Suicide. But Isaac's voice cracked with desperation. "He is my other half, Gabriel. I won't leave without him." Elijah muttered curses. "We're not ready. Supplies aren't enough. Too many risks, and yet I knew without Jacob, Isaac would never stay with us. Desperation would tear us apart before freedom could bind us. I closed my eyes, not that it mattered, and listened. Far to the west I heard them, alligators shifting in a muddy pool, tails slapping water. A plan, reckless, dangerous, took root in my mind. "We will free him," I said. "Not with steel." "With the swamp," Elijah frowned. "What do you mean?" "Blood in the water. A distraction. We'll lead the gators straight into the traders' camp. While chaos reigns, we free the captives." Jacob inhaled sharply. "That's madness, maybe," I said. "But madness is all we have." They followed my silence. The rain fell harder, masking our whispers, our steps. Tonight we would gamble not just with our lives, but with the swamp itself. The blind boy, the swamp's son, would test whether the darkness could devour more than fear. They said the swamp would eat men alive. They never said it could be taught to bite back. Would you risk unleashing monsters just to save your brother? We reached the traders' camp near midnight. I could hear it long before we saw it. The crackle of fire, the low rumble of men's laughter, the faint clink of chains. 10 souls shackled to a wagon, Isaac's twin among them. 3 men, Elijah whispered. "Drunk, armed," I nodded. "Then the swamp will fight for us." I knelt by the gator pool, warm mud sucking at my knees. With Martha's small knife, I cut my palm. Let the blood drip into the water. Then I slapped the surface with a broken branch, splashing rhythm into the dark. The gators stirred, grunting, tails swishing. The smell of blood carried on the air. Slowly, I backed toward the channel that led straight to the camp. The beasts followed, thrashing forward like shadows in water. Twice one lunged so close I felt the rush of air against my skin. Still I walked, bleeding, leading, daring them on. When the first gator reached the clearing, the night erupted. Men cursed, guns fired, chains rattled as the slaves screamed. Horses reared, snapping their tethers. In that chaos we moved. "Now!" I hissed. Elijah and Isaac rushed the wagon. I struck trees with my branch, calling out from different angles, mimicking a dozen voices. "They're all around us," a trader shouted. More shots fired blindly into the swamp. The gators crashed closer. Their tails slammed earth. Their jaws snapped bone. One man screamed high and short, then nothing. "Jacob!" Isaac cried. Metal clinked as chains fell. More voices joined them, the freed captives. Fear turned to hope, hope to frenzy. They fled into the dark, following Isaac's voice. But the fight wasn't done. A trader fired, bullet splitting bark inches from me. I dropped low, heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Over here!" I roared, throwing my voice to the opposite side. Shots cracked where I wasn't. Elijah yanked me forward. "We got him. We got Jacob, we ran." Behind us, the camp dissolved into madness. Alligators feasting, horses screaming, men shouting prayers they'd forgotten until now. By dawn, we collapsed on a small, dry rise in the swamp. 11 of us now. Me, Elijah, Isaac, Jacob, and 7 more souls who had fled the chains. Their breaths came ragged, their voices hoarse, but every one of them was alive. Jacob, twin reborn to his brother's side, clasped my hand. "You led us." "Blind, yet you led us," I shook my head. "The swamp led us." I only listened. But deep inside, I knew the truth. My blindness was no longer weakness. It was weapon, shield, and guide. And the swamp was no longer prison. It was ally. That night, we became more than runaways. We became a people. One night, one ambush, 11 new voices in the dark. Would you have dared follow a blind man through the jaws of the swamp? We did not stop moving for 3 days. The swamp wrapped around us like a second skin, and still I listened, guiding our steps by sound. By the 4th night, we reached a dry island deep among the cypress, hidden, high enough to keep our feet above water, and far from the reach of dogs or horses. This is it, I said. This will be our haven. At first, it was nothing but mud and trees. But desperation breeds invention. Those with strength cut poles and lashed them into crude shelters. Those with skill shaped traps for fish and small game. Jacob, once chained, now carved a fire pit while Elijah stripped bark to weave mats. For the first time in our lives, we worked not for a master's whip, but for ourselves. I taught them what I knew of sound. How the swamp whispered warnings if you listened. How a frog's song meant shallow water. How the flight of herons marked a clearing. How echoes off tree trunks could build a map. We fashioned trail markers only we could read. Gourds filled with pebbles that rattled in the wind. Sticks planted in mud to splash in patterns. To an outsider, they were nothing. To us, they were road signs. Food was scarce. We dug roots, caught fish, learned which berries stained lips with death and which filled the belly with life. Hunger gnawed at us, but freedom sweetened every bite. After a week, we made our first rescue. Aunt Ruthie, the woman Martha had told me of, waited at the Colton plantation. She was older, her back bent, but her spirit unbroken. That night, we guided her and 6 others through the cypress maze, silent but determined. When she clasped my face and whispered, "Your mother would be proud," I felt the darkness inside me shift. We called our island haven. Word spread in whispers carried by field hands, passed along in songs at dusk in coded prayers. Others sought us, and slowly our number grew. Men who had been whipped bloody, women who had buried children sold away. The swamp gathered them all. At night, I sat alone, clicking my tongue softly, painting the shape of our refuge with sound. The echoes came back not as loneliness, but as a chorus of voices. Every laugh around the fire, every shared prayer, every sigh of relief. It was freedom stitched together from fragments of suffering. We were no longer fugitives. We were builders, survivors, a people reborn in mud and shadow. In the swamp's silence, freedom began to speak. If you had escaped the chains, would you have risked returning for others? Freedom spreads faster than fire. By winter, whispers of our haven carried from plantation to plantation. Slaves sang of it in coded hymns. Overseers cursed it in the night. And masters began to fear it. Fear breeds action. Soon, Martha's news reached us through trusted tongues. Planters from 3 counties had joined forces, pooling money to hire professional slave catchers from Virginia. They called us not runaways but rebels, insurrectionists, a threat to the order of the South. They were right. We held council under the canopy of cypress, our fire dim and smoke hidden. Some argued we should scatter into smaller groups harder to track. Others wanted to move north toward safer ground. But I stood firm. No, I said. Division is death. Unity is strength. The swamp is ours. We know her rhythms. We move as she moves. If they come, they will not find prey. They will find hunters. That was the night Esther arrived. She had been blinded too, punished for teaching others to read. Unlike me, she had lived her whole life in darkness. She taught us new ways of listening, more refined than my crude clicks. With her, I learned to sense the weight of clouds by the shift in birdsong, to hear fish turning beneath the water's skin, to measure time by the rhythm of frogs and cicadas. She told me once, "Your mistake, Gabriel, is that you still think like a man who once had eyes. Let go of sight. Let the world be sound." With Esther beside me, my ears became sharper still. What was once survival grew into strategy. Meanwhile, our haven swelled. 30 became 50. 50 became more. We built caches of food, rafts hidden under brush, and codes sung in work songs, so that any man or woman in bondage could hear the path to us. But danger pressed closer. Scouts returned one night with grim news. Men on horseback, rifles slung, dogs baying, combing the outer swamps. A militia forming. They'll burn us out, Elijah warned. Hunt us like hogs, I shook my head. They will try. But every dog can be misled. Every rider can be trapped. Every man who fears the swamp can be drowned in it. We sharpened not blades, but cunning. We made false trails soaked in pepper and animal fat to confuse hounds. We built decoy camps, so when slave catchers stumbled in, they found nothing but smoke and silence. We spread stories of spirits, curses, blind swamp devils who saw in the dark. Fear became our shield. For the first time, I realized this was no longer just escape. This was war, not fought on open fields with muskets, but in mud, shadows, and echoes. And I, the boy blinded by iron, had become their general. When fear marches with rifles, will unity stand or scatter? Would you stay and fight or flee and save yourself? In August of 1833, word reached us that chilled the blood. Thornton and his neighbors planned to sell 30 slaves to traders bound for the deep south. 30 souls, fathers, mothers, children, torn from the low country forever. Around the fire, we argued. Too many, Elijah said. We can't move them through the swamp. They'll be caught, slaughtered. Solomon, once a boatman, leaned forward. Not by land, by water. The swamp's creeks can carry us faster than any hound. Build boats, small and light. We can take them all in one night. Moses shook his head. 30 people in silence? 30 people on water? It's madness. But I knew madness was our only chance. If we let them be sold, I said, we betray everything we've built. Haven is not survival if it does not save others. And so we planned the greatest rescue yet. Solomon built narrow flatboats that could slip through cypress channels like shadows. Esther devised sound signals, a pattern of owl hoots, a rhythm of clicks, so we could coordinate in darkness without words. The night came thick and wet. Clouds heavy with rain. Perfect. Our 3 boats glided toward Thornton's property, silent as ghosts. My ears painted the scene before us. The wagons, the restless shifting of chained bodies, the low murmur of white voices around a fire. Then I heard it. The faint metallic click of a gun hammer. Ambush, I whispered. East Bank. 3 men, Thornton's voice rose from the dark. We know you're there, swamp rats. Show yourselves or we fire. Panic rippled through the boats. Before I could signal retreat, Moses splashed his paddle, drawing the attention away. Gunfire tore through the night, flashes lighting his silhouette. Fall back, I ordered. Secondary route. We scattered into the channels, water slapping hulls, hearts hammering. Behind us, gunshots roared, dogs barked, men cursed. But the swamp swallowed their pursuit, each twist and turn known to us, not to them. At the rendezvous, 2 boats waited. But not Moses. Hannah's voice broke. He drew their fire. Last I saw, they were upon him. Silence pressed heavy. A friend, a brother, gone into the dark so we could live. We could have ended there, broken and beaten. But anger burned hotter than grief. We go back, I said. Not to the wagons. To the road east where they must pass. There we strike. By dawn, we were waiting at the swamp's narrowest crossing. Barricades built from fallen cypress. Diversions ready. When the convoy came, wagons creaked, horses stamped, overseers barked. Elijah's arrow lit the treetops. Jacob rolled gourds filled with stones down the slope, clattering like an army. Confusion erupted, shouts, shots fired at shadows. In the chaos, I whistled our signal. Captives leapt from wagons, splashing into the swamp. Mothers clutching children. Men dragging chains, all drawn to the sound. This way, I cried, leading them deeper into water and night. By the time dawn bled across the sky, 29 souls had vanished from Thornton's grasp. Moses was gone. But 30 lives were saved. His sacrifice became our shield. His name our rallying cry. That day we were no longer fugitives. We were an army, 30 chained souls, 3 boats, 1 betrayal. Would you risk everything? Would you have turned back for 30 strangers knowing it could cost your life? Moses' sacrifice hardened us. His name was carved into every decision, every risk we took. But the planters wanted vengeance. They swore the swamp would yield its rebels, dead or alive. Then came word, Moses was not dead. He had been captured, chained in Thornton's stable, set for public execution. The masters wanted to make an example of him, hang him before the slaves of 3 counties. Our council gathered. Many shook their heads. "It's suicide," Elijah said. "The plantation will be bristling with guns." Hannah's voice cut through. "We leave him there, we lose more than Moses. We lose our soul." She was right. So I told them my plan, a plan of smoke and sound, not steel. "We will not fight their rifles," I said. "We will fight their fear." On the day of execution, Thornton gathered his spectacle. Slaves were herded into the yard to watch. White planters stood near the platform, proud in their cruelty. But hidden in the swamp, in the quarters, even among the crowd, our people waited. I gave the signal. 3 sharp whistles. Chaos bloomed. Resin-soaked moss lit in sudden flame, casting eerie light across the trees. Painted gourds rattled in the branches, echoing like ghostly chains. Strange cries rose from every direction, practiced voices imitating spirits of the dead. The crowd broke. Some screamed witchcraft. Others fell to their knees, crossing themselves. Even overseers froze, their faith in powder and steel shaken by what they could not see. Amid that terror, Solomon and I slipped to the stable. The guard never heard us. One strike silenced him. Inside, Moses looked up, eyes wild but burning. "Took you long enough," he rasped. We broke his chains. "Walk?" I asked. "If it means leaving this hell, I can fly." We vanished into the swamp as panic consumed the plantation. Thornton's voice bellowed orders, but his words crumbled against the tide of fear. By the time rifles steadied, we were gone. Back in Haven, Moses stood among us, free again. His survival became legend. The whites whispered of spirits guarding him, of a blind devil leading armies in the cypress. They gave me a name, Spectre of the Swamp, a ghost who could not be caught, could not be killed, and I did not correct them, because sometimes fear is stronger than bullets. When men fear ghosts, even the blind can lead armies. Do you believe fear is the strongest weapon in war? For years, I carried Martha's kindness like a lantern in the dark. She had saved me when I was left to die, nursed me, believed in me when I could not believe in myself. Without her, there would be no haven, no rescues, no rebellion. Then the news came. Thornton had seized her. He dragged her into his house, demanding she betray me. When she refused, they beat her, hung her by her wrists, starved her. Still, she held her silence. The council raged. "We'll storm the plantation," Elijah swore. But I shook my head. They expect an army. They will not expect a ghost. I went alone. The swamp carried me back to the land of my birth, the place where iron stole my eyes. I slipped between patrols, each footstep measured by echo, each breath hidden by wind. I found the kitchen house first, but Martha was not there. The silence told me before the truth did. From Thornton's study, I heard voices. The sheriff's tone was grim. Found her hanging in the woodshed. "Your overseer swears she did it herself, but the marks say otherwise." Thornton's reply was flat. "She was just a slave." The words split something inside me. Martha was gone, killed for protecting me. My grief was a blade, but I would not swing it blindly. That night, I entered Thornton's study. He slept above, dreaming of his power. I left 3 things on his desk. A carved cypress figurine from our swamp. Scrap of paper that read, "We see everything." And a jar holding the eye I had carried since the day of my blinding, preserved in brine. By dawn, I was gone. Within days, Thornton's mind collapsed. He raved of spirits, of blind men watching him from the trees. They sent him to an asylum in Charleston, broken, babbling, haunted. The patrol slowed. The militias hesitated. The swamp's legend grew teeth. Martha had died in silence, but her silence became thunder. Some die in silence, others live as whispers. But silence can haunt. Would you risk your life for the one who once saved yours? By the mid-1830s, Haven was no longer just a hiding place. It was a nation born of mud, water, and will. We had grown to more than 200 souls, families reunited, children born in freedom, elders who had lived their lives in chains now walking upright with dignity. What began as one island became many. 7 settlements spread through the cypress maze, all connected by secret trails and waterways. We built boats, crafted light and narrow, able to slip through channels that even hunters feared. Solomon taught us to row without splash, to glide like shadows. Scouts patrolled with sound signals, rattling gourds or whistling in patterns only we understood. We created laws of our own. A council chosen by voice and trust, not by whip or birth. Decisions made in circle, every voice heard. No master, no overseer, only freedom. But our strength was not in numbers alone. It was in the stories. The whites whispered of us as devils, phantoms, a blind seer guiding armies in the dark. Mothers sang our names in cradle songs. The swamp became more than geography, it became myth. And still, we did not stop rescuing. Every new moon, small groups slipped to plantations, returning with brothers, sisters, strangers who became kin. Our trails stretched north, linking with Quakers in Carolina, with maroon communities on the coast. Haven was no longer just survival. It was the first link of a chain called freedom. But with growth came risk. Slave catchers doubled. Militia patrols hardened. Bounties rose higher. Their posters nailed on courthouse doors. $500 for the blind rebel of the swamp. We countered not with muskets, but with cunning. Dogs were led astray by pepper trails. Catchers lured into bogs where their own weight dragged them down. Camps they thought they found turned to smoke and emptiness. Each victory bound us tighter. Each loss carved names into memory. We buried our dead in hidden clearings, marked not with stones, but with songs only we knew. One night Esther laid her hand on mine. What you've built is more than escape, Gabriel. It is a nation, and nations do not hide. They endure. Her words stayed with me. For the first time, I saw our people not as fugitives, but as citizens of something greater, something born in silence but destined to roar. What began as escape became a nation carved from mud and water. Do you think a nation without walls or flags can still change history? By the time war broke over the South, I was no longer a boy marked by iron. I was an old man, scarred but unbroken, with more years free than enslaved. In 1861, when cannons thundered at Fort Sumter, less than 50 miles from our swamp, our hidden nation had already endured for 3 decades. Union scouts came to us for guidance, and our men joined their ranks. We led them through marshes where enemy soldiers sank, through hidden creeks where supply lines vanished. The swamp that once shielded us now shielded an army. When emancipation came in 1865, many left Haven to claim new lives on open land or in cities. Others stayed, unwilling to abandon the freedom carved from water and shadow. Some even bought the land around our swamps, turning secret trails into rightful property. As for me, I carried Esther's hand in mine to Charleston, where we built a school for the blind. Children of all races taught not just letters but how to listen. We passed on the skills that once saved us: echolocation, sound maps, the reading of wind and rain. What was survival became education. What was rebellion became knowledge. By the time I breathed my last in 1903, I had lived 99 years. I had seen children born free, families restored, and chains broken forever. I had heard the world change. They called me the blind seer of the swamp, but I was just Gabriel, a boy who once lost his eyes and found his destiny in darkness. What is legacy, if not the echo we leave behind? The swamp still whispers my name. It tells children born a century later that weakness can be weapon, that silence can be thunder, that blindness can be vision. And I tell you now, listen, the world speaks in many voices. If you learn to hear them all, you will never truly be lost. Listen, the swamp still remembers. Do you? Do you believe history remembers the truth or only the voices of the powerful? If Gabriel's story moved you, don't let it vanish into silence. Subscribe now, share this video, and comment below where you're watching from. Every voice helps keep these buried histories alive.